Hey everyone, I wanted to make a series for this VCT Shanghai tournament for players at every rank to learn something from some of the games being played. This video is going to focus on some of the things I think irons, bronzes, and silvers can learn from the game. So let's go ahead and dive into the first game.
What FPX have done so far to FUT has been insane.
It feels surgical in a lot of ways. They show next to nothing at the beginning of these rounds. And you're right, they're drawing out utility, they're clearing out what's permanent from Yetujay's stuff. It's just so miserable to deal with. But the truth of the matter is, FUT have to find a way.
Okay, I'm pausing here. I think this is something that's super important for a lot of iron to silver level players. So iron, bronze, and silver. I see it a lot in gameplay when I watch specifically some of my friends play, and just in general when I see irons to silvers playing. They don't realize that their utility can get a lot of the stuff that trips them up on site out of the field of play. And I think that's pretty important, right? Like a big factor in Valorant in general is just being able to get onto a site and take control of it, right? And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like from iron to silver that getting control and taking space is something that's kind of like a very normalized concept, but something that I tend to really, it like kind of grinds my gears a bit is when you're stacked up like this and you've got two people over here. We've got Omen watching flank and mid, we've got Cypher watching flank over on A. Something that you don't want to fall into is that in this bunch you get one person picked off trying to get onto site without any sort of utility, right? And so what you saw here was you saw Yoru use his clone towards this corner here to see if he can maybe get any sort of trip in this lane. So just generally speaking, what they're trying to do is say, okay, this lane now is clear. So we can move from B main to this little pocket here. Then you saw the Fade use her dog pushing straight into stairs. So now they know once those two pieces of utility go out, they know that essentially this entire area right here, so from here down, is all free of Cypher utility for the most part, right? There might be some ridiculous Cypher trip that goes from like this corner to like all the way out here that didn't get tripped or something. But generally speaking, they know that this is safe, and this is where they want to. This is where they want to push in. They want to move into this left side. That's why they had that harbor wall that kind of came across this way. But again, it just highlighting the point that you don't have to just walk in here with Harbor or Yoru or Fade. Just throw something out to see if you can get that utility out, right? Throw a raised boombot, right? A raised boombot would have done the same thing. At least throw that before you get into sight. Throw a Sky dog, throw a Yoru clone, a Fade dog. There's so much stuff that you can throw. Sova drone with shock arrows. Just try to get utility to clear a site for you before you get onto a site. And I realize, from iron to silver, the coordinated play is very difficult. And just generally speaking, like your teammates might just be like, I'm just going to all 5-stack push, do whatever I want, and they're going to flood. And then you're left kind of dying, throwing utility back here. That's okay. Focus on improving yourself. You can't control fully what other people are going to be doing all the time. But that's just one thing to note here that I think people from iron to silver can probably learn.
No time to dwell on it. Back into the action we go. It's that same harbor wall B. Meanwhile, FUT trying to establish some present A, but they're just walking into the grinder once more.
The Omen flash was perfect.
No space allotted.
And Life again has just walked all the way down mid.
He's wrapped him. And they had no idea.
All right. So another thing that you need to consider from iron to silver is where you place your trips. Look, I'm guilty of this trip. I've done it before. It's not a terrible trip, especially if you're showing the presence that you were showing here where you were sending 4A. However, with them sending 4A, they were sending 1B. That indicates that they are expecting a potential maybe mid-round to come back through maybe tiles to B main to hit B if this Cypher can maybe get a pick here or a pick back here. So with that in mind, again, of course, from iron to silver, that's a bit too coordinated of a strat. I'm not expecting you all to sit here and determine like, okay, well, if we're sending for A, where do I put my trip so that, you know, we can make sure to rotate back? That's definitely not where I'm going with this. It's more just the fact that you don't want to leave your team in a super vulnerable position. And so here's the thing, right? We have a trip here and we have a trip here. Having a trip here is fine once you take control of this space, right? Like once you actually plant and you're on site and you're kind of maybe holding an angle from here to here, or maybe one from, you know, here to here, this trip is fine. There's nothing wrong with that trip. The struggle comes when you cannot take control of that site. You're now in a super vulnerable position in this lane with a trip here, because again, somebody could have crept all the way up to here. They could have crept up to here. They could be sitting kind of back here waiting for you guys to push, and all of that could happen from tiles directly. They don't have to come all the way through here to spawn back down to here, right? Here's why I think this trip, at least in like iron to silver, isn't as good. It is extremely rare, especially with a trip right here, for a player to come out of market or top mid and make their way all the way down here, all the way down here, all the way to spawn, all the way around here, and all the way through here. And why that unlikeliness is so important is if you just place a trip right there, not only are you alerted to the fact that somebody's coming through sooner, you are more likely to be able to get out of this lane here without getting pinched by here or here, without somebody being where this Yoru was, or being here, or being here. Because again, not a single person in iron and silver is going to come all the way this way. They're just going to take the shortest path possible to a potential flank most of the time, maybe not. But in that instance, again, I would just, instead of placing a trip here, you're effectively achieving the same thing. If you have your trip here and you have a trip maybe here, or even if you can somehow finesse a diagonal trip like that, I would probably prefer this one just because it catches people kind of coming from tiles down here. You're achieving the same thing effectively by placing your trip here instead of placing it here, and making it a little bit easier for your team to kind of get out and focus on just one angle, because you know that this area here is mostly clear. Again, it's just a numbers game, right? We're very vulnerable in this state, and so I would prefer having the trip here.
As soon as you try to take that fight, you get tapped. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's his fourth of the round too, so he's already building up halfway to that Viper ult. And we had questions, you know, is Viper going to be played? Success.
That's how Snowball starts.
Great for the side of FUT.
That's how Snowball starts. You're absolutely right.
This time a 4-1 towards that A side of the map, or the side of FUT. No breach utility used though. I think just maybe one flash. So fault line is still up, and FPX are all going to be here for the hit.
I mean, every single one of them.
Right now, if you're FUT, you need to let Yedege get the info on the C side of the map and not get caught out by any traps that FPX have.
The way FUT normally like to play Lotus is they'll run a 4-1 a lot, where Yetuje is like the lurker who, if there's any contact found or a kill found, they pivot away. So it's a different comp, but the approach is the same. They're going to try to commit to this, though. Krax is going to be the first to fall. Not liking what they're seeing A, break the door, and they go B.
Okay, so this is a perfect example of something that I cannot stand when I see it, and that's not buying on the second round of a game if you've won pistol. So it's 0-1. FUT won the first round, and you can tell. So Krax bot, Mr. Fallen bot, CNET bot, and Atta Captain bot. The one exception to that rule that they are doing perfectly is if you're lurking. The reason that that's important is if you're lurking and you buy, and let's say you get caught off guard by maybe 2 or 3 people pushing quickly out of C main or something, or maybe they were all stacked B, they came out, they killed you. You now gave them a weapon to play around when they play for the rest of the team. That ended up happening here anyway. You'll notice they're starting to flood where Krax died, because Krax had a weapon. And so they're trying to get that weapon, and that's why there's a smoke here for them to be able to do that. But generally speaking, I mean, I can't stress this enough. I don't understand where the concept of I'm going to save on the second round because then I'll have enough on the third round. It's like, it doesn't matter if you lost this round. You've basically just flipped the economy back into their favor, and it was a waste of a round for you. So always buy on the second round after a buy. Again, with the exception being if you're going to be lurking, you want to make sure that you're not buying a gun. And then during the round, I think this is also super important and overlooked. For those that do buy rifles, so specifically Vandals or Phantoms, be very cognizant of your position on pushes on this round, specifically on the second round. So if your team, let's say, is pushing, let's say you're like 4 stacking here and you're pushing up A main, or you're 5 stacking, let's just say you're all going A main, you do not want to be the one that goes, once you get control of sight, you don't want to be the one that goes all the way up here. And looks at this angle, right? Unless you're super confident you're going to get 4 or 5 kills. But even then, what ends up happening there is if you die here, let's say there's 4 or 5 enemies here and you die right here, they can now take that rifle and they can play around that as best as they can. So what you want to do is kind of send the people that have the worst weapons to take and hold the space available, and then slowly layer the enemy's ability to get better and better guns. So if they do end up defeating that first layer of people, they have maybe, Stingers or Spectres versus like Vandals over here. And then once they get down here, they maybe have, I don't know, like Outlaws or something, whatever the general buy is. You want it to get, you don't want it to be easy as soon as they overtake in one little spot by getting a Vandal and then working their way through. You want them to kind of take longer working through that progression if they have to. So again, that progression system is not something that I would expect iron to silver level lobbies to really care about. But for you individually, when you buy a weapon and it's on the second round, try not to give it away for free if you do die. Try to be in a position that it is advantageous to your team, not their team. Hope you found this helpful. If you did, think about subscribing, and if not, well, then why are you still here? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.